Devin is intentionally not training left as he is testing his own theory of pumpkin training. Devin thinks his left might be better than ever right now. He said that when talking about his battleground, but it makes sense since he's bulked up, on cycle, and still does lots of table time with left. He also smoked the left arm of Pushkar 5-1. His style of open top roll, King's moving, is just a nightmare for hookers like Jordan. And based on footage of their two recent practices, it looks like Devin will take his wrist and bleed him out. If your only weapon against Devin is a hook, you're in for a bad day. Left-hand super matches don't have the same audience like the right hand. Left hand is simply due to the fact that there's more people that are right-handed, more competition, bigger audiences, but it's also worth that left hand has seen spike in popularity in recent time. Just seeing Pushkar's defeated body language as Devin calmly shakes his head, no, and gracefully places his hand into the pad without effort is the most masterful display of arm wrestling I've ever seen. This must be exactly what it feels like when you're still too young to challenge your dad at something and he just whoops you. I do believe that if Devin would have faced Siplenkov on left around the same time he faced Pushkar, it would have been one hell of a match. Not saying he would have won, but Devin just looked more dominant against Pushkar than Siplenkov did on the left during this era. Jordan is extremely strong lefty. He's not the kind of guy you can just come and beat after years of not training your left hand. Devin said recently that his left is the best it ever was. All the left-hand stuff does seem like a distraction given he's been pumpkin training for years. Seems more like a personal experiment for him. Plus, it brings in some money, I'm sure, so I guess he figures why not. Devin's pronation is so strong that he's basically unhookable, and also Devin primarily uses outside arm wrestling, not attacking wrist and gas out the arm. Devin is all about rise and pronation, so a taller arm wrestler gives him a lot of problems. Devin always fights shorter guys with shorter leverage. Taller guys can give Devin problems like Matt Mask. Kurdicha destroyed Devin on the left arm repeatedly, beating the real overall WAF champion left-handed without any training in 3 years. Party arm is still pretty good. That arm is no joke. He still trains it at the table with sparring, just not with weights. To be fair, part of his success comes from King's moving. And you don't really need to train a bone lock. It's not about the shoulder, it's the humerus angle, which isn't exactly aligned to the shoulder, especially when his arm is turned sideways in a King's move, pronating through his shoulder, not as only his hand. An interesting thing that happens in the body is when you choose to do a pumpkin type training. Both arms see some of the benefits for training, even if only one is trained. For example, if you need tricep surgery on your left arm and can only train the right for a period of time, the left arm will see benefits from training the right despite not spending any time under tension. What worries me about this approach is the asymmetrical body composition that's bound to result from it. Doesn't seem logical or most optimal for strength. Every time you see a tough match, the puller always uses their whole body, more or less. He isn't very fast and he isn't as strong at gym lifts or in certain arm wrestling areas. He has insane endurance, very good pronation and hand control, and uses King's move and transition to high hook amongst other things to win. This isn't a mystery, and Devin uses a host of techniques to win. Another to mention about Devin's King's move is the kickback of his wrist to help prevent any hook option from his opponent, and the constant rising and regrouping to dig himself out of that defensive position after getting the stop. Since it puts a lot of stress on the tendons, people taking steroids might get very strong muscularly very fast, but the tendons would not be yet up to the task of enduring such forces when their arm is stretched up. There is a bone lock involved. Even though the move is all about pronation, the forearm is fully supinated. That is to say, the forearm is at the end of the range of motion. The pronation muscles are engaged so you don't get armbarred and break your elbow, but you're using that joint lock and rotating your whole arm through the shoulder and body rotation to crack the wrist. This is another reason why it's super effective for Michael Todd, because his right arm doesn't supinate so he can hit that lock even earlier, and that's why you can't hook his King's move. Add the fact that his arm doesn't straighten. This allows him to gain height in the hand without dropping all the way below the table. Then you have kickback, which adds more pressure to the pronation through the bottom strap, and rising completes the winning control of the hand. When it came to practice matches against Jordan, he never seemed to come out on top. Despite this, he refused to let it get him down. He knew that practice was one thing, but the real match was where it really counted. And when the time came for Devin and Jordan to face off in a real arm wrestling match, Devin was determined to give it his all. I understand that Devin has a unique approach to his practices where he intentionally gives away better positions and advantages to his opponents. While this may seem counterproductive at first glance, it's important to understand that this approach allows Devin to learn and grow as an arm wrestler. By putting himself in challenging situations and learning how to navigate them, Devin is able to develop a deeper understanding of the sport and ultimately become a better arm wrestler. So let's give Devin the benefit of the doubt and trust that his unorthodox practices will pay off in the long run. Devin Larratt and Jordan had an intense match, with Jordan trying to force Devin to hook and Devin trying to stop him with King's move. It was a battle of strength and strategy, with both athletes pushing themselves to the limit. Despite the pressure from Jordan, Devin refused to give in and was able to hold his own. Through careful maneuvering and precise technique, Devin was able to secure the win in a truly impressive display of athleticism and determination. It was getting difficult for Jordan to apply side pressure as the match goes. Ultimately, it turns out that Devin was able to get up and meet Jordan at a hook, but Jordan was gassed and had nothing left for Devin. If you don't have strong flop press, there's no way you can pin him because he always will have the superior hand and wrist, and he will just gas out his opponent until he drains out the soul out of him. Devin emerged victorious in the highly anticipated arm wrestling match against Jordan, relying on his superior hand control and expert use of the King's move, despite Jordan's best efforts to hook Devin. Devin maintained his position and ultimately overpowered him with a swift and decisive maneuver. To his credit, Jordan put up a valiant fight, attempting to turn the tables with his flop press. Devin is a force to be reckoned with in the world of arm wrestling. With his incredible versatility and cunning strategy, he can easily trick his opponents and come out on top. Devin knows how to read his opponents and exploit their weaknesses, using every trick in the book to gain the upper hand. His reflexes and iron thumb make him a formidable opponent, and his opponents never know what hit them until it's too late. Whether he's facing off against a seasoned pro or a newcomer to the sport, Devin always brings his opponents in a game and leaves his opponents in awe. Devin's pronation and riser are unmatched in the arm wrestling world, except for Devon for sure, giving him a clear advantage over his opponents. Despite this, Devin knows that he can't win every match on his strength alone. That's why he's always focused on building strength throughout his entire arm, not just his hand. He knows that if he loses, it's not because his pronation or riser weren't strong enough, but because his arm wasn't up to par.
Elbow's good. Let me get a grip. Okay, get a grip.
At the end of the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We've got plenty of great arm wrestling content coming your way, and you won't want to miss a thing. So hit that subscribe button now and stay up to date on all our latest videos.